Stream started and give me just a moment, y'all. I am completely running behind today. It has been a busy day. I want to get the word out on both Spoutable and Post. So give me just a second. And welcome to the Bonnet Chronicles. I am your host, Kalari GXC. And we have a lot to talk about today. But I definitely want to get the word out, and then we will get started whether chat fills up or not, the way we always do. Let's get the word out. And I am so sorry I am running behind today. It has been a busy day. As those of you who follow me on Spoutable know, I decided to start taking more serious steps in looking after my health. So I had a nurse practitioner come by and do a screening, advise me on some of the things that I need to do and can do to keep up with said health issues. And it was a really nice visit. My vitals were very good, which I don't say that to brag. It really is hard for me to do the right thing sometimes when it comes to my health. So it was nice to have somebody come give me the lowdown on ways that I can both handle things like the fibroids, some of my dental stuff, and other things in a way that will make me comfortable. And she didn't try to downplay my agoraphobia or anxiety. So it was a really good visit. It was really what I needed to get my mind right to do the right thing. All right, let me do the spoutable one. It's Tuesday. It's more of a bare bones signing, but it is what it is. I've got to get my focus. And like I said, I am sorry that I was supposed to be on at 4, but I was in a school meeting because it's kiddo senior year as well. So it's our final year of dealing with Connections Academy, which has been really good for him. I was saying that on Spoutable too, how we had to deal with a lot of people who had opinions about me putting him in virtual school. And there was a lot of reasons for my choosing to do that, especially given that when we started, we were still in North Carolina and they had zoned him for a school that I didn't feel he would be safe at. And after having several incidents of them having a lockdown because of suspicious people, and especially after what happened yesterday with a literal shooter taking out a faculty member at a university, I don't regret putting my son in virtual school. I think he is thriving in a setting that works for him at his own pace, and it has been good for us. Do I still respect brick and mortar schools? Of course I do. I also will talk about later on in this cast about the attacks on funding for public schools that some of these supposed secular schools are doing. It all ties into tonight's topic, which is the benign and malignant forms of bigotry. But it was a busy day for me, and when I finally realized that, oh crap, I've got a Bonnet Chronicles to do, I had to get it together crunch time. So I hope you appreciate the fact that I did not skip out this Tuesday. Normally, my brain would have been like, well, you missed the hour window anyway, so just skip it. But I really wanted to talk about this topic. And with talking about kiddo being a senior year, I definitely want to open up with this Florida school thing because not only does it infuriate me as a parent of a black child, but it should infuriate any parent. The fact of the matter is, these schools have become test taking facilities instead of places for actual education for our kids. And it's because No Child Left Behind tied a lot of state funds and school funds into test scores. Because you can't have little cogs in the wheel unless they prove that they can do the little push button test or the little dot test that the school gives. And what bothers me about this whole topic, this school in Flagler County decided that they were going to segregate the black students from every other student in the school, even though their calculations showed that only 36% of the African American students in their school were having problematic test scores, which in a normal setting would mean teachers need to up their game. They need to find remedial and other resources to help these kids with their learning deficiencies. But instead, they decided to grab a bunch of babies because this is elementary school. And need I remind you, elementary is kindergarten through fifth grade. So 5 years old to about 10, 11 years old at most, unless they've been held back. And I think at most you might get 12-year-olds. These are literal freaking babies being separated, segregated from their white peers, and told things like, you need to get your test scores up. You're holding the school down. If you don't get your test scores up, you'll end up dead in the ditch. You could end up in jail. They literally tried to scare straight test scores out of black students. And I know some people are like, well, Tim is Florida. What do you expect? I expect better. It is the year 2023, not 19 fucking 50. I don't understand why people want to just dismiss things because, oh, it's the South or, oh, it's Florida. There should be more outrage at the thought of taking kids based on the color of their skin tone. And we know that they did it because it was in the freaking notes of the people in charge. AA, African American test scores. These people have literally taught these babies yet again that they will constantly be singled out by something that they cannot and should not want to change about themselves. And it is this malignant form of bigotry that people try to treat with benign reasons that troubles me the most. It's one of those things where you say to people, what is it going to take for you to understand that this isn't okay? How many more of us have to die to unfair things? How many more times do our kids have to be subjected to inhumanity and indignity like shit like this? In a state that wants to literally legally teach them that there were benefits to slavery. It is this insidiousness with racism that I can't understand why people don't see it. Some of you just don't want to see it, and it troubles me. But as I deal with what will probably be a very smooth school year with my kid's virtual school, because I have teachers that care about him. He has a speech language person. He has psychiatrists. He has everything he needs to guide him. I knew I couldn't get that in brick and mortar schools because if you think it's tough for black kids with non-neurodiversity, add autism to the mix and it's even worse. So I made the decision so that my kid wouldn't have to go through this to pull him out of brick and mortar schools. And seeing stories like this makes me even more justified. And that's sad. No parent should feel like our babies will not be respected. No parent should feel like their skin tone will make them a target in their own places of education. And need I remind any educator out there that thinks, well, the schools really need that funding, Tin. We really do have to get those test scores up, then do something about it. These are students. They're not there already knowing this stuff. And it is the way you're teaching them that shows that they're not getting it. And I can't believe I even have to say that. If your way of teaching, if your methodology is not bringing those supposed test scores up, then it is the way you are teaching those students because they are not retaining the knowledge that you're giving them. And you are not doing it in a way that they can understand it. And we need schools to stop worrying so much about test scores and actually having it where the kids not only enjoy, but embrace the knowledge that they're intaking. And finding creative ways to teach our kids is so important, but we can't have that because our freaking country is still divided by this malignant bigotry. And it is not just the blatant anti-black racism. It is anything anti-brown, anti-immigrant, anti-indigenous, anti-women, and definitely LGBTQ plus have to deal with this country's bigotry. And when we allow our country to give us people that are just sacrificial, it is infuriating. And it leads to stuff like this, where our babies are constantly subjected to the idea that they're different, thus, they have to be treated differently and treated more harshly and unfairly. And that has to stop. I don't even understand what people were thinking with doing this to children. But sadly, I'm not even surprised by this. It breaks my heart because there is absolutely no reason for educators in this day and age to separate children based on their demographic and ethnicity and make a certain demographic feel like, well, if you don't get those test scores up, you'll go to jail. I can tell you, as somebody that I've had people say, Ting, you're brilliant, and other people go, oh, those standardized test scores could be a bit better. Now, it wasn't the basic stuff like reading and math for regional stuff. I often did well in those because there wasn't pressure. But things like the SAT and ACT, I blew those because it was a lot of pressure. It was a lot on my head, and I could not keep my focus. And a lot of the questions on those tests didn't feel like stuff that I was comfortable or familiar with. And that's a lot of these tests. A lot of people don't stop to think maybe we shouldn't try a one size fit all for every student because not every brain thinks the same. But until we shape our schools towards actual learning and make education fun and engaging, we are going to continue to see these abysmal numbers in certain areas. I'm just upset as a mom, and I'm upset for those kids to have in such a young age this instillment of you're different when they should be just like every other kid. And that's the insidiousness of malignant bigotry. I'm not even going to call this benign because I hate using the word benign with bigotry because there really isn't any such thing. But there are ways people try to act benign about their bigotry. I'm just trying to help you. That's what these teachers really thought. The superintendent in charge is trying to spin it because they really don't want to lose their job behind this, but heads should roll because there is no good reason on this earth that any child should be singled out by test scores. That is a school problem. That is not these babies' problem. And I would be just as indignant if they had circled any other demographic, but it hurts more to me as a black person because it feels like more people just accept that this is how you're supposed to treat our kids. And it's not okay. And until we start really pushing back, until we have more Alabama sweet tea action with this stuff, we are going to continue to see people disrespect us and our children, and it has to stop. Now I'm going to move on to this young man because hearing him speak, he said a word, and I love when I see stuff like this. So let me bring up Spoutable here because it was on my Spoutable page. And the lovely Miss Tamara is the one who originally shared it. This man said a word, and I want you to hear his word for real.
Still blows my mind is America manipulated the entire world and is thinking black people were violent and aggressive and dangerous. Y'all built an entire country off the labor of black people and treated them like literal property and livestock. Then prevented them from learning to read or write for 250 years. Then after they were free, you gave the people who held them captive money instead of giving them money that they were owed to start their new lives. Then when they started to build their own wealth and equity, you used every excuse to burn down those big successful towns. Then forced assimilation because the only other alternative was continue to have their towns burned down and them being murdered. But then when they moved in towns near you, you still pushed them off to the side, sectioned it off with a highway. That's how redlining was made. Then you only put cheap and unhealthy foods in their neighborhood. Then for years, no matter how educated they were, they couldn't get jobs at the same level as you because of that same racism.
He said a word and a half. And what bothers me about some of the things that he said that people act like they don't know, as they ignore things like sundown towns, they ignore the literal redlining, the not in my backyard attitude of affordable housing as if it would only be black people moving into y'all's neighborhood, is this has been ongoing since the inception of our country. I am from New York. New York City to be actual, and some of the history that even that area has. Not just the state, because the state already has a touch and go history with racism, and it's still dealing with it with things like the top shooting and everything else. But one of the things people don't realize is that Central Park, that park that everybody likes to talk about and be cutesy about, it was built after they displaced and literally kicked out Seneca Village, which was a black, thriving community. And this is just par for the course in America. Anytime black people got together, built solid communities, whether it was a community of wealth, whether it was a community of working and prosperity, white people said, you know what? We want that area. Or we don't like the fact that you people are doing well. We are going to take it from you. Sometimes they did it the legal route with the government backing, like they did in Seneca Village, which completely wiped out that area to make a park that people still go to today without realizing that so many African American families were just displaced. Oh well. You had Rosewood, which a lie sparked a literal massacre. Greensboro, Philly, so many others. And this country continues to disrespect us to our faces. It took a Watchmen episode for some of you to realize what happened in Tulsa wasn't a riot, but a literal massacre of innocent black people whose only crime was being black in a white society and daring to thrive. What bothers me about the downplaying of this and the lack of wanting to teach it is, as a friend said, this is not a black problem. This is not a brown person's problem. Even though you have some adjacent fuckers, I'm going to get to them tonight too, that try to downplay the effects of racism. This is a white problem. And this isn't a white problem in the realms of you need to feel bad about your lack of pigment or melanation. This has been condoned by way too many in your demographic for way too long. And if we are going to get anywhere, there has to be more of you to see this as a problem within your community to work on. And it has to be an individual work on. I would love it if we could get used to be a collective community, but you've had centuries of being told, yous are individuals. You've got that individuality. When one of you fucks up, that's a them problem. That's not a you problem. There is no community within white people to really appeal to. And the ones who use that do bond together, we can't reach those people. They have bonded together with their MAGA hats. They have bonded together with their tiki torches and their Proud Boy memorabilia. I'm not trying to reach those types. It's just not gonna happen. So instead, we try to reach out to those of you who fully understand, fully grasp that it is not about you feeling guilty for being a white person. It is for you to help us condemn the acts of hate that so many loudly will put towards morality, will loudly and wrongly put upon people simply for existing as who we are. Whether it's our skin tone, our cultural identity, our gender, our sexual orientation, anything they can find to moralistically hate, they have done. And I'm sorry to break your bubble, but the people who've pushed the most eugenics arguments, the people who push white supremacy, because it's in the freaking name, happen to just be white. So if you're tired of it, what I need you to do is join us on the anti-bigot path. Anti-racism, anti-homophobia, anti-everything that these people want you to feel when it's not logical. You might not be LGBTQ plus, and you can still have empathy for those who do and understand that that is their life to lead. You do not have a moral obligation to tell people that they're wrong for living their life. You should be immersing yourself in different cultures so that you understand that the world doesn't just revolve around you, and you can have informed information about different people. The whole idea that black people are just inherently violent in a society that's inherently violent. When we see people literally going into dollar stores. This man went into a dollar store yesterday, armed up, and murdered three black people. He had nothing but manifestos with swastikas, of course. And people act like, well, it's just every day that ends in Y. And why are we like this? The people in Jacksonville are mourning right now because they don't know. They don't know if they can just go out of their houses right now. They don't even know if they're safe in their houses. And this is no way to live as an American citizen. But so many of you expect us, because we're black, to just deal with it. It's getting harder to keep pushing on. It's getting harder to be jovial and find hope when people just act like this is an everyday occurrence and you can just accept it. We shouldn't have to accept the fact that we are going to be dehumanized for our skin. We shouldn't have to accept that there are men out there that treat us like we're less than because of our gender. We shouldn't have to deal with our trans sisters living in fear because, oh, gay panic. We shouldn't have to leave our LGBTQ brothers and sisters behind, period. But that is the society that we have constructed, that we have to deconstruct and make better if we are going to move into a better future. And I'm sorry if there's anybody in chat right now. I am not seeing chat. I think it's broken for OBS. So I am definitely not ignoring you guys. But honestly speaking, this is such a heavy topic for me because it breaks my heart that we even have to say this in 2023. But it is the reality of our country's situation. It is the way people want to look away that really breaks my heart. It is shit like this. Let me see if I can bring this nonsense up from the nation. All right, I don't want to deal with signing up for anything. Thank you very much. Now, I said I wasn't going to talk about this cat too much, and I really, truly don't want to. In fact, let me get up Betty, because this is how I feel about Vivisect. And that's how I'm going to call him. I don't want to know his name. And I know it's somebody with a name that people call exotic, how disrespectful it is to call somebody out of their name. As somebody whose name is often butchered, even my online handle is often missaid, I'm used to it. So when I do it, I am being 100% honest that I'm being disrespectful. And this motherfucker who's running under the GOP, who seems to want to acknowledge the fact that racism exists, but wants to say that it is anti-racism that is aggravating the racist. Because when you have to try to appeal to people that hate you for things that you cannot and should not want to change about yourself, you will bend any logic into a pretzel to seem palatable. And that is what Vivisect has done. He has decided to go on a crusade while rapping Eminem lyrics, which Eminem has given you a cease and desist, Vivisect, and I would stop if I were you. He has decided that his crusade would be anti-racism bad. It makes racists feel bad. And that is why this manifesto shooter, because they always have manifestos, whose own family committed him, but that committing wasn't enough to stop him from legally purchasing firearms that he used to destroy black lives. And this doofus, along with Def Santis, gave perfect sound bites to why they will never be presidential material. Because whether people want to accept it or not, that whole divide and conquer that for the rest of this. Point blank, problems with people of color like Vivisect and others who think that they have enough white supremacy adjacency to say things like anti-racism bad is they know what they're doing harms us. They don't care. It's not about harm reduction, it is about their ends. And these people are dangerous because they represent our community on a face value. You look at this man, you think that's a person of color. I should give what they say weight. Yeah, what they're saying will not benefit people that actually look like them, that are trying to fight the good fight and bring actual diversity into politics and beyond. But they are saying what validates me because I don't trust people that look like that. And I don't understand why I feel that way because every human comes in different shapes and shades and everything. But I was used to only people that look like me and worship like me and pray like me. So anything different makes me uneasy. And instead of confronting that and realizing that those are bogus feelings, I would much rather lean into the bigotry. And then you have cats like this, cats like Candace Owen, to a lighter extent, Brie Cheese, and other palatable Negroes and POC who will parody these awful white supremacy talking points. And then you trot them out like you did Herschel Walker's cabbage ass to say, no, we support people that talk the way we want them to talk, but we don't support you in general. We'll look the other way as your communities are stripped of funding, your babies are humiliated, your neighborhood shot up. We'll say it's all black on black crime instead, ignoring the fact that crime really crosses every demographic. And if we're going to talk about violence, you guys still lead us in that department. Whether you like it or not, black people are just trying to live. And the fact that there are white people out there that don't even try to get to know us, just form Fox News propaganda driven opinions about our existence. And then they go out and they raise these little heathens who get access to guns, who go out and shoot our neighborhoods up. It's infuriating. And then you've got these idiots like Vivisect. You've got these idiots who should be leaders but aren't, saying these awful things about anti-racism because they know who they're playing to. They're not playing to the communities who would need them to be leaders of us too. They're playing to those who will come out of their pockets money-wise because you make them feel good about their hatred. And that is a dangerous game to play. But that is how divided we are in our country. And if we are going to get anywhere against this nonsense, we are going to make headway versus this ridiculousness, we have to work on ourselves because I would love a community effort. I would love for more Americans to open their eyes and realize that holding on to this hate, holding on to this bigotry and prejudice, it doesn't make you better people. And it holds us back from so much good. But we are up against a moral crusader cause. Their new crusades is to go after school funding. They had this guy on tape. He's head of Christian charter schools, this weird secular society that wants to separate kids of faith, as they call it. Mostly non-melanated kids, a few brown here or there, as long as their parents have the money. The supposed Christians who want to separate their babies from the rest of us heathens, teach them that slavery was beneficial, that the Holocaust taught some people awful bullshit so that they are fostered into fascism without any kind of fight. And a certain demographic lines up and eats it up like it's fucking pudding all the time. And this is so dangerous to those of us who just want to live, just want to flourish, just want to grow with our families and be safe citizens in our own communities and beyond. It doesn't make sense, y'all. It doesn't make sense to me that we are in 2023 and I am still having to deal with mass shooters going into our neighborhoods because, oh, black people, having our babies segregated and humiliated. having people question whether or not our VP is ready for the presidency because she just happens to be a biracial black woman. The benign forms of bigotry are the worst because people think they're being helpful by saying shit like this. You're not being helpful if you don't see how hardworking that woman is. Oh, well, she's not in the media. The media legitimately downplays anything this whole entire administration does. The fact that we have had several natural disasters that FEMA was on board for just this year alone. Hurricane is hitting Florida as we speak, and I can guarantee you that this president will have a response team out there. Our vice president has already been down to Florida several times, mostly to tell DeSantis, you need to slow your roll with that benign slavery bullshit. But she has been traveling here and abroad globally to build coalitions. But our media doesn't want to play like that. They want to act like this administration isn't doing its job in spite of getting stuff done. When that I-95 bridge collapse happened, you think under 45 anything would have happened as fast as it did? 2 weeks, Philly was up and running again because of our transportation secretary, Mr. Shapiro, who is a great governor. And the fact is, when you have leaders that actually care about what they're doing and their constituents, things get done. And what we should be doing is focusing that on a state by state basis, weeding out the rot and getting through all of this. And instead, we continue to play these games with these people that want to say things like anti-racism bad. And it's because they know that hate will hold you. It's like a death root. It binds your soul and your mind and your body in place. And you won't be able to think on anything else. You won't be able to critically think on anything else. You won't be able to see fellow human beings as that because you're in that comfort cocoon of bigotry. And it is hard to break those who are comfortable out. But I see those of you who can see outside the bubble. Realize that this doesn't comfort me. And I don't know what to do, Tim. How can I break out? What happens if I'm alone? Because that's another thing that the social conditioning has done to a lot of white people. That idea that you will be isolated and alone and societal pariahs. And because of that, that has been the most effective tool of keeping that status quo in check. Whether it's to keep you focused on money woes, whether it's to keep you focused on your reputation and being ostracized from your peers. It has been a three-pronged assault with keeping you in line to not pushing back against bigotry. And that is why I said you have to work individually, being defiantly decent against this stuff. Is it easy? No. I'm not going to lie to people and act like taking an anti-bigoted, anti-racist route is going to be easy. There are always going to be people that don't trust your methods and motivation, especially if you're doing it to get a look at me pat on the head. Because there are still a lot of yous out there that do that too. Well, I'm anti-racist. You need to pay attention to me. You don't know what I've done for you people. I've had so many, especially elder white people, do that, and they can't seem to understand why that chafes people like me. Because when you do the right thing, you need to be doing it whether people notice it or not. Because the goal is a society where it's unnecessary to even point out that you're not a bigot. Where it's just commonplace that we can all live together and exist together. But the fact is, there are some of you still in this for the wrong reasons. You don't understand what allyism means. And it's not you telling us that you're our ally. It is you doing the right thing, whether people appreciate it or not, because the benefit is more for you than us at this point. We have learned to navigate hatred's fuckery, sadly. This is more to free your soul from the hate grip. And I think enough people really need to hear this. It is not for our benefit anymore. Black people have shown that we can adapt to just about anything, and we have survived horrors over the centuries. And I'm not saying this to say, give us more. I don't want any more. I'm fucking tired. But I am saying this for those of you who think that, oh, you're just doing this to save your people. My people will be all right. Just like nature, we will grow, We will adapt and we will overcome. It has always been in our blood to do so. This is for those of you who see that the hate is not sustaining you. The hate is not what you want. It is not nourishment for your soul, and that you want to be better people, so you have to be defiantly decent. And I want those of you who understand what this means, understand that you don't have to be a bigot. You might not understand what that other person's life is like. You can't, because it's not your life. Even somebody that looks like you can't understand what another person is exactly experiencing. So, in that mindset, understand that there are going to be people on this earth that walk a different path from you. It is not on you to try to mold people to be like you, because that is not logical. And once more people start to grip and understand that, we can have better. Now, y'all, I really wanted to go a full hour, and I am sorry about this, but it is raining super hard. I haven't gone red again yet, but I have a feeling that I'm going to, and I cannot see if chat even started up. This is definitely going to be touched upon a little bit more on Friday night. I will add it to the Friday night show notes. I definitely want to thank you all for sitting in. Anybody who is in the stream, oh, thank you, Red Baron. I can see chat now. But I am going to get ready to wrap this up a little bit early because I feel like it's going to go out again. And even though I'm recording, I want to make sure that what I've got is uploadable to YouTube. I will be back Friday night for a full hour, definitely. Thank you all so much for sitting in, and I will definitely see you Friday night.